Super Black Onyx is the kind of game that Famidaily exists for. It's historically significant, not particularly well known outside of Japan, and totally impenetrable unless somebody explains all of the game systems to you. The Black Onyx, no Super, is often pointed to as the first JRPG. That's not quite true. There were a handful of RPGs developed in Japan before it, but I think it's reasonable to say that the Black Onyx was the first successful JRPG. And that meant it got ported to a lot of places, including Sega's SG-1000 console. 4 years after its release, it was finally time to come out on the Famicom, but by that point the game was a bit dated, and so they reworked it entirely into Super Black Onyx. Super Black Onyx has new levels, including the very start of the game, and new mechanics for the console. Super Black Onyx also added this Roger Dean cover. The story of the game is that at the top of the tower there's the Black Onyx, a stone that will grant immortality. So naturally the tower gets filled with adventurers and monsters, because that's how dungeons worked in the early 80s. One convenient thing for players outside of Japan, Super Black Onyx is almost entirely in English. There isn't a lot of text in the game, mainly things in your inventory and character names, but it's English. The very first thing you have to do when you begin the game is decide which character is your main one. Each of these cards is a character, and you press up and down to scroll through them. Left and right will move between the X and circle, and hitting A when it's on the circle means that's the character you're going to be. Most of these characters are pretty similar, and I'd recommend going with a hero for this. Monks and mages are the magic-using classes, though everybody can learn any class. The section at the bottom is their starting inventory. For mages and monks, that's going to include spells. Once you have a character picked out, it's time to enter the dungeon. You only enter with one character, but as you explore you may encounter other adventurers, and have the opportunity to recruit them to your party. In fact, the only thing that appears on the first floor are other adventurers. You'll also find shops on the first floor, including this barber's shop that will give you a different haircut. As you wander around, you'll come across these black walls. Those onyx surfaces are teleporters that will take you to a different part of the dungeon. The one on the first floor just moves you over a couple of squares because it's there to demonstrate what's happening. Another thing that you'll come across as you explore are holes in the ceiling and floor. These are how you get up and down a level in the tower. When you're on one of those squares, press A to travel between levels. From that starting town, I'd actually recommend going down instead of up. The monsters seem to be a little bit easier in that direction. Combat is confusing. When you enter combat, you have 3 options: fight, run, or talk. You select these by hitting left and right on the control pad. Talking will let you recruit adventurers you find, and if you choose to attack those adventurers, you lose karma. Each character shoots out whatever they have equipped. It then hovers over a target, and you hit the A button while it's hovering there to do the action. That's how you hit people and cast spells. How long the item is hovering out there is dependent on your dexterity, and a random factor. So it's very likely in the early game that your action will shoot out and then return before you get to hit the button. If your item stays out there long enough, you could switch targets or get in multiple attacks. Only 5 enemies show up at once in the combat screen, but you can be attacked by more than 5. They'll have icons at the bottom representing people who will rush in when you knock somebody else out. What each character is using is determined before you get into combat. So mages and monks have to equip one spell beforehand, and then hopefully it's the right spell. The 3 stat bars for each character are HP, Strength, and Dexterity. Your Strength and Dexterity fall as you do actions, indicating that you're getting exhausted. All of these recover relatively quickly as you walk around. You don't get experience points for winning the combat, you get experience points for doing actions. So you have to hit people or successfully cast spells to get experience. You can also find places to get some experience, but those tend to be pretty small rewards. Outside of combat, you can hit the B button to bring up the party menu. And here's where you can switch up equipment or use things on each other. Monk spells are cast by runes, and mage spells are cast by gems. And each gem and rune have a separate use inside and outside of combat. You will need the Radia monk spell, because using that out of combat is how you save the game. Using spells and items is a little bit tricky. On the party menu, you have to scroll to the person, then hit left and right to select the icon to use. Once the icon is chosen, then you go up and down again to choose who you're going to use it on, then press the B button to use that on someone. This is also how you change which spell and weapons are equipped. Super Black Onyx is a huge game. The dungeon is vast and it will take you a long time to explore it. I don't know why you would want to, though. I can appreciate wanting to do something different with the combat system, but this just does not work. It's frustrating to hit the button to attack only to watch your weapon fly back. And managing which spells your casters are using is a nightmare. Also, the game sometimes uses A to select and B to cancel, like in the menus at the start of the game, and then sometimes it uses B to select and A to cancel, like when you're in the party menu. That really gave me a headache. If you want a dungeon crawler, I guess this is more flavorful than some we've seen. I suspect that most people would just find it to be frustrating, though.